Hello and welcome back to the Wheel Talk podcast. My name is Abby Mickey. I've taken the mic back from Matt Deneve, but my goodness, did he do a great job hosting the two TDU pods with Gracie Elvin and guest appearance by Grace Brown. I don't think you can really ask for anything better than that. But today, we're back in the studio, in the virtual studio, to talk about the TDU one day, maybe a little post TDU thoughts, look ahead to Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. There's races in Mallorca. And with me today, Georgie Howe.
Hey team. Abby caught me in the middle of some single leg squats, but I hopped my way home and got online just in time. May have slipped out of my diary.
Did you balance at least and do the other leg, or are you going to be forever just one leg stronger than the other?
No. You caught me at the end. You caught me at the end of my set. I was in my rest period, so I'm good. I won't be imbalanced.
And Matilda Raynolds, so happy to have you back on the pod.
G'day, how you going? I'm back. No, very good. It's been a long time, I think. I think it was almost the last time I was on was when was setting our fantasy team. So I was happy not to be on the wrap-up of that one. I think I was just off the podium or on the podium. Gaia Riolini, I think she was in negative points. Who was in my fantasy team at that stage. So had a chat to her at TDU and just told her to lift next time. But yeah, no, being down in TDU, it's only fitting to have two Australians on this podcast. So yeah, nice to be back. Hello to all the escapees.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was like, oh, what should we talk about this week? And I was like, actually, we didn't even do a draft for this year. We haven't revisited the draft. I don't know. The draft might be dead.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I feel like at this point, women's professional road cycling is so unpredictable, which is the great part about it. So it's just a bit of crap shooting in a barrel at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Gracie took the overall of the draft last year by thousands of points.
Well, yeah. The hard thing is if you have Weebus, then it's a little bit like Tade on the men's side.
It's true.
But yeah, we'll have to probably consult Lauren, just check in on her mental health. It was a roller coaster for her, so if she needs it, then we should probably bring it back.
Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't lose.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be fair on Lauren, it was actually my team because I was her proxy, so I can take the full blame for that one.
Yeah, well, she should have been there in the first place. All right. Let's talk women's professional road cycling. We wrapped up TDU with a fantastic podcast, like I said, by Matt and Gracie and Grace, but we didn't get to talk about TDU. So the three of us, if we have any more post TDU thoughts, Tills and I were actually just talking about the final stage and the kind of UAE drama after the stage and how that final stage played out. And I have thoughts. Do you have thoughts, Georgie?
I've always got thoughts. It's like asking if the Pope's Catholic.
I mean, I think overall TDU was really good this year, and I am always going to be like a little bit sad not to see hometown teams getting a chance to throw down in the top level. I think it's like an inevitable shift for women's cycling that Conti teams aren't allowed in World Tour races. And I think at some point in the future, that's going to be like a no-brainer, maybe even now. But it was a little jarring to watch TDU and not see those Aussie teams lining up for the race and, in the breakaways and stuff. And I think that although the finales of all three stages were fantastic, the long stretch of racing before they got to the final 25 kilometers of the race, you could really feel the loss of those Aussie teams.
Yeah, you look at last year, was it Ali Anderson who had some good stints off the front in TDU last year? And then she got picked up this former calendar year by the Conti team of Liv Lula-Jaco. So it's a really lovely stage for riders to get themselves out there and for team directors to do a bit of window shopping at the start of the season for those Australian cyclists. So it's a real shame that they don't get that opportunity anymore. But yeah, I guess it was a bit more predictable in some ways, like the first 2/3 of each stage, particularly when you've got when you have big climbs like a double corkscrew at the end of the stage, or it's looking to be a bunch sprint and there's not much wind. So the entertainment factor probably wasn't as high, but the quality of the racing was still there, apart from a bit of a cock-up by three UAE riders.
Yeah, I think being down there, I think the thing about TDU, there's no point in harping on about there needing to be 4 stages. I can speak for them in that they would love for there to be more stages. I think Nettie and Carly Taylor, both ex-riders, who are the race directors down there or the assistant race directors, they would do anything to have more stages, but it's just not feasible with the police presence, what's required from the investment, and you'd probably need to lose 1 or 2 stages from the men's to enable those stages to come over from the women's. But the great thing that they did do, which we've been calling for, is longer stages, harder stages. I think they want them even harder next year because everyone did turn up with a lot of heat prep. A lot of the teams and the riders came in a lot earlier as well, and we saw a really high level of racing across the board. Back in the day, we used to see the top names come in like they'd hardly ridden their bike that year, where this year we saw the top names battling out for the top 5. So I think that was really exciting to have all the teams there. And with the Australian team, that did mean, though, they had a lot of younger riders in there who did really struggle. But in saying that, I think that's where there is the new national league that has started up here in Australia in its 2nd season, the Pro Velo League. We saw a number of the riders come out of that, go into the Liverlula Jayco last year. And so I think that has filled that gap a little bit because that does have live broadcasting on SBS, and broadcasting and exposure is the biggest thing that TDU used to give these local teams. But I'm keen to unpack the 3rd stage if you want.
Yeah. The 3rd stage was obviously the queen stage, the highly anticipated double corkscrew stage. And I think I expected it to be a lot more aggressive. Like I expected a lot more attacks from other teams, but what we really saw was like UAE Team ADQ just taking the race into their hands unsuccessfully. Super impressed with the form of Sarah Van Dam, who had a good showing last year at TDU as well, and rode into the season with a lot of fitness. And now on Visma Lisa bike, she went down to TDU and was by far their strongest rider, finishing 5th overall. And when she was able to get up the road with the UAE Team ADQ riders, like I was like, oh, sweet, this is great. And I wrote about it in the newsletter how like one of the best things about cycling is that you can look back on former stages and pick apart like when things could have gone differently. And I think there's a world in which Sarah could have either won the whole thing overall or finished on the podium because of how stage 2 went when she was in that really, really strong break that I like still can't quite believe got pulled back with the caliber of riders that were in that breakaway and the composition of the break. But yeah, in the end, the kind of drama between the 3 UAE Team ADQ riders and Noemi Ruig, I think for me watching the stage back and listening to the post-stage word on the street of how things went down, it really sounds like it wasn't the riders themselves that messed up that finale, that it was the directors in the car making the calls of how Dominica attacked on the second, in between the first ascent and the second ascent of corkscrew, and maybe wasted too much of her energy there. And I think when those 3 riders got halfway up corkscrew with Noemi on their wheel, there was no way that they were going to win the race. There was no chance in hell that they were going to drop her on the descent, on the run into the finish, and no feasible way that they were going to beat her in a sprint. I think they really were up against one of the strongest rider in the peloton at that point, and I was incredibly impressed to see her ride the way that she did after the season she had last year, where she had such a successful first chunk and then broke her collarbone, I believe, in La Flèche Wallonne, and then was kind of chipping away for the rest of the season, but never really got back to the same winning level. I think, for her, I just love her trajectory and how she was kind of signed to EF as this young rider, and she's their top point scorer at the moment, and is not really one of the biggest names that we are super familiar with. And so for her to win against 3 team UAE riders, look, if you're looking at the top 5 of a race and 3 riders from the same team went 2, 3, 4, like something went wrong. That's not something to be proud of unless you're Noemi. Like really incredible win from her. And I think there are maybe things that UAE Team ADQ could have done earlier in the stage to win the race. Like, I don't know, on the first ascent of Corkscrew, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say, but the finale wasn't hard enough to distance Noemi. And I think that they weren't going to win. They just weren't going to win. The race, the climb wasn't long enough to drop her on the climb. And the way that she was riding, they weren't going to beat her.
Because often, it's still referred to a domestic league that's kicking off in its second season, the Pro Velo League that's just wrapped up, and IDS, one of the teams in there. And one of the things that we're talking to the girls a lot in the debriefs is like, okay, you're out of position at the sprint, like you're on the wrong side of where the team was. Like in that moment, yeah, you're in the wrong position, but that event actually happened about like 3 laps prior. So like always peel it back and look like before the moment happened and see what events led up to that. So yeah, I look at what happened with UAE and their situation with Naomi on the final corkscrew climb, and I was thinking about like, okay, how could they have done it differently? And honestly, like in the call from the director in the car to send Dominica up the road at that point solo was not the right call. Yeah, of course they could have said, oh, well, we expected her for Sarah Van Dam to follow, but that was like the probability of that happening.
You can't rely on another rider from another team.
No, exactly, 100%. Like that's a massive stuff up there. Like you're better off committing to a 3-person breakaway, really getting the gap, and then on that final corkscrew climb, you've got 2 riders to play with who are out and out climbers, and they can 1-2 Van Dam.
Yeah, I think the thing that happened was they went from 3 breakaway riders to 1 versus the peloton, and that was they essentially shifted the advantage out of their own hands. But I think like a lot's been said about this stage. I think it's all real positives for UAE though. Naomi Rugg, full credit to her. Magdalene Villari's, the pace that she set the world champion up the second climb was to nurse her through that. And by the time they were on that second climb, it was all over. I was on the roadside commentary and I was screaming on that first lap like Michael Scott from The Office, like no, don't do that. Because it like on the second laps that we've seen at Tour Down Under, it was the same in Wollonga. Everything came back together. And I think they really underestimated. There was a bit of a headwind on that second lap. And because we'd never done the second lap into corkscrew before, it actually is a long drag out of the finish line that you come past back to the bottom of that climb. And I think they were just really scared of Van Dam because she had been so good in the sprints. But they were always going to drop her again on that climb, and they just didn't give themselves that opportunity. But I did have a good like chat to Brodie down there, and I think just remembering, like you opened with, Abby, was the new team. They went in with 3 leaders. EF, they went in with 1 leader, and they all backed that. And I think also the biggest difference was also a brand new director, and so a new DS. And I think was probably not actually directive enough. So more saying, you know, whatever you guys like, giving them the choice, where you just got to say, this is what you got to do. Because in that moment, you just can't think clearly enough. You don't have, it's so easy for us with the bird's eye view. We're looking from the literal helicopter of what is going on. And particularly at the Tour Down Under's really bad reception with radios. And so the women who were racing at the front, they just did not realise really, they didn't have the whole picture to make those decisions. And that's where the DS has just got to absolutely call it. And yeah, look, I think it's still really positive for UAE.
Yeah, in my pre-year predictions, I said that UAE Team ADQ was going to be the strongest team of the year. And I think based on how they looked, not the way that the results shook out, that they are looking to be the strongest team, and that translates over into the races in Mallorca as well. So I think they can, even though like they're obviously disappointed in how the race ended, I think they can be really proud of the strength that they had coming into the race. And it's just a matter of putting those pieces together. And I think like this is the first time really that European teams have gone into TDU with, you know, really strong teams, that they aren't up against this massive Australian superpower that is like all the Aussies coming into TDU with better form than all the Europeans. The top Aussie rider in the overall was Spratty in ninth. So it was really like a European tour this year with the changing of the rules and the way that the teams came in. And I think like it's only going to become more of a focus for teams. But this year was really like it was just a whole new race in a way, the way that the teams approached it and riders approached it. And so I think like I was disappointed in the amount of crap that the UAE Team ADQ riders were getting, because one, I don't blame the riders, and two, it's like such a new thing for them to be down there at TDU racing against each other and not racing against like all the Aussies who come in always with better form, you know?
I think what the question mark that really raised for me watching this whole tour of TDU was the fact that we do have such a class World Tour peloton already in January, and the rosters still haven't changed from average like 15, 16 riders per team. And so if we're seeing this quality of rider in January across the board, not just in a team like Green Edge, then what does that mean for the quality, like the racing and rider burnout throughout the season if, again, they're only allowed to miss one World Tour race? So, yeah, I'm just, my spidey senses was tingling around like rider duty of care for this calendar year. So I guess we'll wait and see. I'm hoping for the best.
It is really early in the year for those European riders to be flying. And I think in years past, when we've had a rider from like a European team, that they have so much more focus on the EU races to come into TDU on really good form, they've then not had good summer seasons, I think has been like the trend. And training has come a long way, and focus on rider health has come a long way since those days. So I'm not saying that's definitely what we're going to see. I think like EF does a really good job of taking care of their riders. So I hope that this isn't like, I hope that Noemi carries this form, because I want to see her battling it out in the classics. You know, we want more riders than SD Works really showing up to the classics. And I think she can be a really good rider to watch for a lot of those classics. So yeah, but I think you are right, Georgie, that it's like, it's really early to be flying. And I don't think any of them are like on 100% form, but still it's like we're in uncharted waters at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that corkscrew effort, like, have you ridden it, Abby?
Oh,
Tills
yeah.
and I have definitely ridden
Super
it.
fun.
Yeah. Like that's a VO2 effort. And so for European riders to be VO2 maxing at that level up a climb like that in January is, yeah, it's something we haven't seen before. So clearly they would have had to be doing like targeted efforts. Like you can't do that off base training alone. So it'll be really interesting to see what does eventuate. And then I saw this week that Voss, I think Demi as well, and maybe Lotta aren't starting their seasons until Strada. Is that right? So we've got like two like buckets of riders. We've got like the TDU Australian contingent, and then we've got those other ones who are resting until March. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure.
I mean, Omloop, yeah, it's kind of a big blow to Omloop. And I mean, we're going to see a pretty strong peloton show up to UAE Tour, the next tour. But for the opening weekend for the women, it is going to take a hit, I think, with this focus on the beginning of the year and how important Strada is for riders like Demi who have bigger goals going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. But I do have the rider's duty of care at heart, but selfishly, as an Australian who loves entertaining bike races, it is great to see the Aussie summer pinging off.
Yeah, I actually think it's a lot harder for the Aussies to get up for TDU.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I think it's sort of been overlooked a little bit in that, like, just watching the women and mates of like having, like, they come home, Abby, and they've got like 6 to 8 weeks, and that is it for the entire year that they see their family, their friends. Many of them are in that home environment, and they're having to balance the extremity of like having to be so social to try to fill that cup for the rest of the year, They've also now, the nationals in Perth are fantastic. But I guess an American example would be, going from, they used to be in California and now they're in New York. It changes enormously when majority of the riders do live on the East Coast. And so it's another week and a bit away from your family. And then they go again to Tour Down Under. When they're also racing nationals, that's another week that they sort of have out of training really hard. And so, yeah, I think it's a really, really difficult balance for the Australian riders who are trying to see their family and their friends, whilst also having to train at that level for TDU, which is why we've seen every now and again, we see a couple of big names like Brody and Neve. Obviously, last year they skipped it for that reason. But yeah, it is. I think it's actually easier for the Europeans to get up for it. They're locked in their Zwift. They're locked in their dungeons, and it's so efficient to be training indoors. Many of them, and now many of them have already been at Calpe and in the heat before all that as well. So they get to come down and have a great time. And by all accounts, everyone did have a great time. I think the funniest question we got from the UAE riders actually was, does no one work here? Because in Adelaide, it would be something quite weird to see, is that thousands of cyclists converge on Adelaide, converge on TDU, and it's this incredible cycling centre where it must be one of the only places in the World Tour where the men's and women's are housed under the same complex, both the mechanics and where they're living. And every morning, thousands of cyclists ride out. They sit in their chamois for like fucking 8 hours and at the cafe. And it was just quite mind-blowing for the riders there to understand the culture. But of course, we all love it. We all go there, take time off work and celebrate cycling that week. So I hope they have had a good time. I hope SD Works have had a good time. But honestly, if they're not, then it's definitely not our fault. But I think that'll set us up really well for Cadels, because there hasn't been a lot of opportunity and it's a long way to come to then go home without something to put to your team name.
Yeah, so TDU was, by all accounts, a glowing success, and now the same peloton will go into, or pretty much the exact same peloton will go into Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, the first World Tour one day of the year. Hello, Abby from the future here. At this point in the podcast, we had a lengthy discussion on the midweek Surf Coast Classic. However, the race announced on the morning of this podcast airing that they had to cancel the event due to the evolving bushfire and weather conditions. At the time of this voice note, the cancellation of the Surf Coast Classic has no impact on Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, but that is something to keep an eye on in the coming days, since the races are in the same area. A huge bummer for the race to be canceled, but obviously the health of the riders and greater circumstances uncontrollable are the cause. So hopefully we'll be back for the Surf Coast Classic next year, because it's awesome to have these midweek races for the teams that travel all the way down to Australia and the Australian riders as well. But we still have Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race to look forward to. And back to the podcast. We actually didn't cover the TDU one-day race, but it was a fantastic win from Maggie Coles-Lister, who's coming back from iliac artery endofibrosis and has always been kind of like on the cusp of a rider to watch. And for her to take that win was huge for her and for human-powered health. And especially after she wasn't able to finish the second stage of TDU, to take that win was really exciting for her. But Noemi was in second. It would be totally predictable to see Noemi take another win at Cadel's, the way that she's sprinting at the moment and how those climbs aren't going to affect her at all. But I think like Paula Blasi is a rider that I've put a star next to for that race. It's kind of like Cadel's is this really great race where you oftentimes get to see kind of a younger rider or an unknown rider take the win, because we're coming off of TDU and a lot of the bigger named riders got their chance to have the team support at TDU. And so the team will back like a younger rider, but a lot of the times because of the way that the course is, that it's this, the climbs in the end of the race are really challenging, but oftentimes the race will come down to that final like 20, 30K, and it'll be things that sneak away in that finale. And with the heat and the way that the racing has gone, things can go off the front. And we've seen like reduced sprints, of course, in the past, but my favorite way that Cadell's always goes is when it's like the year that Rosita Reinhardt won, like a rider that we've almost basically never heard of or is really new to the peloton. Like, Dominika Włodarczyk also, the year that she won it. And I think like that could be a similar situation with Paula Blasi going into the race this weekend.
Yeah, so look, there's a few changes, I think. I don't know if they're going the other way, but this time a majority of the climbing in the course comes later. So one of the key moments that used to come really early on at 10K and be like a nothing thing, it was way too early, but at 69K or 59K this weekend, there's a 2 kilometer climb at about 4.7, like maxes out at 7.7. It's like a Cat 4 climb to Barrabool. I think that could be like a good launch to really try to break it up. We saw, look, I don't want to call it boring, but it was pretty boring last year and the year previously when I did it as well. There was a headwind for majority of the race, and it really cut the legs off the entertainment. Where this year the wind is looking over like just under 30K an hour. We've threatened wind a few times now at this event, but if that wind picks up, being in it is horrific. And so it could really split this year, which would be really, really exciting. I think I'd love to see another lap get added to the women's course, because we see more and more the way the women's, if it's to be run as it was last year, we'll probably see a group of 30 at the finish. The year before it was 2. Last year it was a group of 10 or so. This year it could be 20 to 30 if it's not aggressive enough. But as you say, Abs, like I think a lot of the names, Josie Nielsen, what can she do during the week? She was a good standout. As well from Picnic. Obviously Ali Wollaston, but Naomi Rugg. I think though some of the UAE are going to be really cohesive coming into this. Włodarczyk has a lot of experience at this race. And I love the one where the long range attack. This race, it has been done in the men's side where there is a long range attack and there's not enough cohesion behind chasing, and that's how the race can be won. But yeah, there was a few riders that we didn't see, like Chloe Dygert did crash in that Tanunda 1.1 during the week. She was back out training. I just remember her from last year. She was so impatient at Tour Down Under, and then at Cadel's she forgot to go. And so I'm not sure which version we're going to see. I'm hoping we actually see the impatient Chloe Dygert version. And because if she goes, then this really could be one for her, George.
Yeah, I'm just doing some analysis as we speak, some live routing.
It's all about the Chalambra climb while you're looking at that, G. So it's like, so the Chalambra climb is it's only 1.4K, but and the peloton just keeps going up it quicker and quicker, and the more people that you have going up it, the faster and easier it can be, depending on what the wind's doing down it. But Neen Fisher-Black, she has the QOM up there in 3 minutes 24. But we've got to remember,
gets up to like 9.6% that climb, so it's like not insignificant.
But Ali Wollaston was only 1 second behind that. So, and we're seeing a better climbing Ali Wollaston this year as well. So Ali is really targeting nationals, her Kiwi nationals, and that's only a week or so after Cadel's as well. So she's in form for it.
And Ali took the win last year after, she won the one day, midweek one day, and then she won Cadel's as well. And actually, correction for myself, Dominika was second when Rosita won. But that was like when we really saw, I think it was the first time anyone had ever heard of her, and now, top 5 at the tour. So
she keeps getting better. I think seriously, what can Naomi Rugg, Włodarczyk, Van Dam, Olivia Brill. I think those riders really need to work together against Ali, because they saw on stage 2 of Tour Down Under, if they don't go hard enough through those circuits, then Ali will be there.
I think even more than TDU, this is a race where we're really going to see an impact from not having Australian teams on the start line, and the national team won't even be fielding a team at Cadel. So I think like the way that this race has gone in the past, with how challenging the finale is with the 2 laps up that climb, that the big names that are targeting this race are not going to hit the wind until the final like 30 kilometers when they get into those circuits. And so I think there's a potential that the race is quite boring up until that point, because a lot of the teams, I don't see them wanting to send riders off the front early in the stage, especially if there is going to be any threat of wind coming up at any point in the race. And especially if it's going to be hot, then, you know, they're not going to want to waste any energy. So there's a potential that it's not going to be that exciting for quite a while, I fear.
And I have the weather outlook. I mean, we are Monday, so it's a bit tricky, but it's going to be about 28 degrees at about 12:30, from 12:30 on Saturday, the 31st of Jan. And very similar to last year, we had a block headwind from the start last year, and it's going to be similar this year. So I remember last year watching the race, and the women were pretty much at a standstill when the neutral flag dropped. So why would you send someone off the front early? And that was when we had Conti teams in the bunch. So I don't think it's going to be a hugely exciting race. When they hit that climb that Tills mentioned at around the 60k mark, it is a crosswind there around Bells. So potential to split maybe, because then it goes into a bit of a cross tail. But as we know, it kind of zigzags, and the tree coverage on those roads is pretty good. So it's the wind. It's not like you've got an open field like you would in Belgium. So the wind direction isn't as, it's not as consistent. So it's harder to split the echelons up. You really only get about 500 meters of time for that to happen. So I don't see wind playing a huge factor. And even if there's not much anyway, like 17 k's an hour, probably around the max. So I don't see wind being a huge factor. But
yeah, but you can never discount wind after UAE Team ADQ won the Giro because of a 10-kilometer-an-hour headwind or crosswind.
No, I know, but this course I don't think lends itself to echelons as much as we think it does. I think
I'm
think
still
about
scarred
we think
from that one, the one that it did.
There's always one. There's an exception to the rule.
Everyone was chilling, and then grenades were thrown, and it was like one of those moments where you're like, oh, cool, I'm next to Lizzie Williams, who's one of the best riders in Australia. It's fine. And we were not fine. We were in the fourth group in 80th position, but start praying. Start praying.
Yeah. I think, I think you need a straight easterly for that to happen, and that's easterly's happening now, and it will swing around to a south southerly by the time they hit the race. But
it's the same on the men's side. There's usually a doomed breakaway even on that first lap, which gets pretty exciting. Who chases? What is that made up of? So yeah, I think there'll be a bit of a TV breakaway potentially for a little bit, but it obviously all comes down to that last 30k.
Well, yeah, and it's always like, I mean, I know for myself there was always like this growing feeling of doom the closer we got to the circuits, and I looked down at my average watts and I was like, oh geez, I haven't been pedaling very hard. What's gonna happen?
The easier the race, the worse those 2 climbs are.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember Spratty went nuclear in my last year doing it, and I think I averaged like 150 before we hit the circuits.
Oh, how great would it be if Spratty won her last race on Australian soil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for a rider like that. That's where I'd love to see another lap gets added. So then we change the dynamics of the race, and because we've sort of seen those what happens is pure climbers come in when it was 1 lap, and then Chloe Hoskins won, and then they added 2 laps, and the pure climbers came back, and now the sprinters are back into it. So yeah, I'd love to see it rebalance on the other side and give them 3 laps.
Just like a micro look at how much the sport has evolved over the years.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, same with Wollonga, same with Corkscrew. Just keep adding them. Yeah, you mentioned no Australian team, Abby, which was a big one. That is a bit of a blow, definitely. But I think with what's happened with the Australian team is so many of the riders that would usually fill that team and now in the Liverloola Jayco development team, which didn't previously, wasn't that strong and wasn't around in the past few years as well. Obviously, they must be in their third year or so, Georgie. But yeah, a couple of those riders get to ride with the World Tour team on the Surf Coast Day, which we saw at the Tanunda stage as well. But yeah, from my understanding, the Australian team had to pay for themselves, and they just could not afford that for Cadels. So that is a bit of a blow. We saw an unbelievable ride from some of them, the 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds, Tali Schwarzer getting around at the TDU, Amelie Sanders, who's I think just 19. She was 10th on that Tanunda stage, the 1.1. So it is a shame. This used to be the favourite race for that team, I think. And so yeah, I think that's a bit of a blow and just might need a review, I think, from Australian cycling.
I think national federations globally need to step up. I mean, we saw last year with the demise of Hess and Drops or Life Plus Wahoo, like British cycling needed to step up in that situation. I think that continental teams they need more support from their national federations, especially now. And I think it's going to take some adapting from those national sporting organizations to really make those changes and make space for them in their budget. But yeah, I think like because TDU as an organization had to pay for all the World Tour teams to come out to Australia, they didn't have any funds spare for the Aussie teams to come in or to help subsidize any of their entry fees. So yeah, the budget was blown for Cadels.
God, that's such a huge expense to fly all those European teams out and house them for an entire week.
They get chartered between TDU and Cadels as well, chartered flights.
Yeah, I
And
was
yeah, it's unbelievable. But just looking at the start list, I don't know how correct this is. Charlotta Cool is down for Phoenix Premier Tech. I don't think she's in the country, is she?
Yeah, I think
don't think
And then
so.
also,
I think the start list is still not confirmed, not fully confirmed, but it's pretty safe to look at the start list from TDU and expect the same
yeah.
riders to line up.
And Ninka Vinca, is she back or what happened to her for TDU? Did she crash before? Or she's just not racing for SD Works? So
I
that would be
saw her.
one, if so,
Mm.
to certainly look out for. We haven't mentioned Femke Greasy. She was third on stage one. She crashed, I think, at the Tanunda stage as well. So how she has bounced back will be interesting to see. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of teams that are slightly left wanting from TDUs, particularly like the Canyon Trams, Little Trek. What can they do in there, I think. So yeah, I'm excited to see what those teams will sort of hopefully light up a little bit.
How do we think like because I mean obviously we saw from nationals in comparison to the rest of the Australians, Alex Manley and Ruby Rose McGannon and Josie Talbot as well are riding exceptionally well. What do you think, Tills? Are we going to see any fireworks from those guys at Cadell's? Like I think it is a good race for someone like Ruby.
I think Ruby is actually a better climber now than sprinter. So Cadell's really suits her. And I think with Silke Smolders, who's not here and was their rider the last two,
Mm.
at TDU and at Cadell's, then this is really, a great opportunity, G, for Ruby. And I think the whole team will back her. Alex Manley she wasn't that at her best for TDU. We saw her actually leading out her, like being on the front of her lead out during stage one when usually she would be the sprinter. I don't think this may be for her, despite looking pretty good at nationals. But I do like Ruby. Yeah, I'm pretty positive about how Ruby can get around. And she's had great results here in the past. So I think she can
Yeah.
be there. But she'll have to take her chance and get away with someone because I don't think she can beat the likes of Sarah Van Dam and obviously not Ali Wollaston in a pure sprint, but I think she can out climb some of the more pure sprinters.
Yeah, I
But I'd
think
love
so.
to see Ruby, Van Dam,
Yeah.
like Voracek, these sort of riders, Olivia Baril, what can she do?
Yeah.
If they can get
Burrell had a
away,
good TDU as well. She's
yeah.
been a sleeper for a few years. Like her last good year was 2023, and she's had a few tempestuous years. So to see her kind of finding her legs again is good to see. And yeah, we got maybe it's the year of the Canadians.
But also they were riding force Brady. Like Guy Riolini is still really struggling in the bunch with her bunch positioning. So yeah, I think we didn't see too much from Bountifind and Lois Adegest. Hadn't she won this before?
Yeah, she won
She's
it
Yes, she has.
the
winner
Yeah.
first
this
year
year.
that she was
Yeah.
on FTJ.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of experience in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just hope everyone just starts throwing grenades.
I'm going to assume that Charlotta Cool isn't racing because she is currently with Christina Schweinberger, Melinda Zott, and Evie Kempers somewhere, according to her Instagram.
Love that.
Yeah. Cool.
It was stalking.
I'm stalking, yeah. Some real-time fact checking.
So okay, well, we can. I just want to go around real quick. Number one, like who's going to come first? Cadel's is like one of the hardest races to predict, so this is always fun.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict. I want to say Sarah Van Dam just because I was so excited to see how well she rode at TDU, but I'm sticking with Paula Blasi, I think.
Oh, I don't think Ali can. I don't think they can get away from her. I don't think they can get away from Ali Wollaston in the stage.
It's really hard to look past Ali when you've got the firepower that she's got around her, particularly in the likes of Amber Crack. Because on a stage like that, if something needs welded, Crack is your gal. But I'm gonna go not with my head and with my heart and say Ruby. She's had a fantastic. She's yeah, they go on the heart pick. She's yeah, I know. She's my neighbor now, so I've got to sticking to the Brunswick local. Yeah, I do think she's finally found that balance of work-life play this off season, and I think she's a really happy camper at the moment. So happy legs makes fast legs. So I'd love to see her use them.
I do think no matter what, though, we're probably going to see again 3 UAE in that finale. So I'm excited to see how they have another crack at it. But it was like, I think the way they also handled themselves after the race was impressive. I think there's a really good vibe in that team. I think it's a great shout, Abs, that you've said that they'll be a top team. Just with the way they handle themselves on and off the bike. I know there was reports of a bit of yelling going on after the race, but I think that happens in any sport. I think we just get the privilege. It's pretty rare that in the sport, like if we look at the tennis that's happening in Australia at the moment as well, you don't get to go into the coach's box and listen to what the DS is screaming at the rider. So I think they were able to sort their shit out pretty quickly, and they're all around at Yochi enjoying themselves after. They didn't go down the Jayco route of just naming one person and hanging them out to dry. So, there's positives there.
Man, they really started their season off poorly, and like that's something that is going to haunt them, I think, for many months to come.
Speaking of UAE,
yes,
I saw Squaban.
Yeah, really, really good. I was thinking this is a great transition into talking about the races in Mallorca, because in Mallorca, we had a lot of top riders lining up for the 3 one-days in Mallorca. First of the 3 was won by Mavis Squaban against Marlon Reusser, and it was really like not much happened until the base of the final 4 kilometer long climb, and then it's only a Cat 2, but it was Squaban and Reusser who came to the line together and sprinted it out, and there was a lot of attacks from Maeva going into that finale, with Reusser really doing her diesel engine to make it to the line with her, but some elbows thrown in the final corner. And I think for Squaban, it was just kind of like furthering her wins from the Tour last year, which you can't call it a fluke if you win 2 stages of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift back-to-back, but just solidifying that she's a rider to watch going into the whole season, that she was able to take this win against Reusser, who is, arguably one of the best riders in the world. And they had Sylvia Persico in third as well. So they finished first and third on that first stage of or that first race in Mallorca, and then going into the second race, which was a reduced, like a breakaway sprint kind of. There's 3 categorized climbs in the circuit that they raced, or one climb they raced up 3 times. And it was a lot of crosswinds that split the race. And in the end, a group of 12 that got away and 11 that went to the line together. But it was a really interesting mix of 5 UAE Team ADQ riders and 3 Movistar riders with 2 little Trek riders in there, and then Suzanne Anderson of Uno X Mobility, who had a teammate in Linda Zanetti earlier in the race, but Linda dropped back before the final ascent of the climb and the run into the finish. So in the end, it was really like UAE Team ADQ versus Movistar, just like the day before. And Movistar got the jump on UAE Team ADQ. The shuffle coming into the final turn was really interesting. You clearly wanted to be first wheel going into that turn or second wheel going into that turn if you were the sprinter. And Clara Caponi from Little Trek positioned herself perfectly behind Kat Ferguson, who with the teammates that she had in that group, especially Aude Bionique, who did a ton of work on the front of that group. She didn't have to touch the front a single time since the moment that they broke away. And so she had a lot more energy going into that sprint and open the books for Movistar with that win. But also, Kat Ferguson is such an incredible rider at only 19 to take her first win of the season on the first race day of the season was really, really incredible. And I think when you were looking at that group that went into the finish together, it was UAE Team ADQ really had a lot of firepower in that group, but not necessarily a sprinter who would have been able to take Ferguson to the line, regardless of how the makeup of the group was going into that final turn, because they had Megan Jastrab, who's an incredible sprinter. They went for Sophie Van Rooyen, who ended up 3rd in the sprint. But they would have had a hard time out sprinting Ferguson with how incredible she is coming with a small group into a finish like that. But it was a really good race.
Yeah, big things from Kat Ferguson this year, I think.
God, she's still only 19. It's wild.
Yeah, I just want to do our fantasy team so I can put it back on my team again. I think it's peaked too early last year. But yeah, I didn't see, honestly, too much of this, just the highlights. I'm definitely not staying up to watch European cycling when it's all happening down here at Down
when
Under.
It's January.
But I did see exactly. And I did see Squaban just absolutely... put Rusa almost in. She squeezed under her elbow, which I loved, and gave her a bit of a fright to take that corner. So yeah, I just love the confidence that she has. She's a bit more of a quiet rider, and I just imagine that the Tour de France has just given her so much more confidence and belief, and I'm sure she'll get a lot more opportunity this year. So it just keeps fueling into. It sounds like, Abby, the biggest issue that UAE may have is who is their leader, who is their rider, who do they ride for? I think that, it's just they've got a great team, and they've already started the year off really well.
I think for UAE Team ADQ, unlike FDJ United Suez, who they have so many potential leaders as well. And obviously Vollering is kind of one step above everyone, but they still have a lot of riders in that team that are French that they are going to have to cater to at some point. But UAE Team ADQ, the main difference for me is every leader on that team is happy to ride for each other. They have, Dominica, who's happy to ride for Aliza, who's happy to ride for literally anybody. They obviously have riders like Aliza who are going to be targeting big races, and the team is going to have to put everything behind them. But for the most part, on any given race, they are the SD Works of old, where they have a bunch of riders who can win the race and they're all happy to work together for each other. Versus FDJ United Suez, I think from what we saw last year, they have multiple people who can win the race, but they have a hard time being like, no, we're all going for this rider and really sticking to that plan. So I think the vibes, like you were saying, Tills, in that team is really what's going to put them above everyone else. And that's and
the leadership.
Yeah.
I just worry about the DS. The DS is really going to need to step up. particularly for the likes of Paula Blasi. I think she's only been riding for like 2 years,
Yeah.
and then you've got Marvi Garcia, who's been riding for about 42 years. And, how they balance that mix.
Yeah, I think you need a firm DS with someone like Marby though, like because
Mm.
she is so experienced, but racing has evolved, and so like yeah, I think she could very easily make her own decisions, but yeah, I think the DS needs to be quite firm in the logic behind his strategy for someone like Marby and be firm with that.
But the second that like any DS goes into a race with Eliza, like they're gonna get put in their place because she's not gonna take any. If you give her a plan that she doesn't see how it's gonna work, like she's not gonna quietly be like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that."
Yeah, true. Yeah. Speaking of DSs and needing a plan, etc., Abby, you want to tell us about the Abby Mickey project?
What Abby Mickey project?
You're training.
Oh
You're
my
training. You got a
God.
goal.
This
You've
Discord
got a
thing
goal.
really
The
went.
people need to know. I'm putting you out there. I'm putting it out there. 'Cause once it's out there,
Oh
it's
man.
happening.
For anyone who's not
This is
on
Operation Von 2.
Yeah, for anyone who's not on the Wheel Talk Discord, this is about Steve put on Steve. He put on the Discord Lizzie Dignan's new coaching project and called me out to try to sign up so that I'm ready for Von 2 for the Tour de France Femmes Swift L'Etape.
Whoa, you've heard it here
That I
first.
have to do. And then first Matt Deneve took a screenshot and sent to me and was like, "This is a great idea." And then I copied that screenshot and put it in the work Slack and I was like, "Here's an idea." And then I was like, actually it'd be kind of cool if I like was able to train and see if I could beat my time at Von 2 when I raced it in Ardèche in 2018.
Whoa.
Which
I didn't hear that detail.
No, wait. I was really sick though.
detail.
I was really sick that day. I think I didn't start the next stage because I had like the flu or something. So I wasn't at 100%, but I was really fit. So I was like, oh, this could be kind of interesting. So then I messaged Lizzie and I was like, here's an idea. And Lizzie was like, this sounds really fun, in parentheses, for me. Let's hop on a call next week. So things are progressing and I have regrets. But we can hear more about it after my call with Lizzie because I think it is a fun potential project. And yeah, who knows? Who knows if it'll work?
Abby Mickey project. This will be the new fantasy check-ins each week. Need to check in. What's happening? How are we going?
The fitness?
What's the CTL?
Oh,
make your training peaks public.
Oh man. Anyway, let's wrap it up. We've got the last 2 races in Australia coming up and they are going to be fantastic. And then we move back over to Europe with a stop at the UAE Tour along the way. So we're getting this season rolling. Let's finish off the pod with any obsessions. Georgie, you got anything?
I do. I did a new endeavor this weekend, which I'd never done before. In Waratah Bay, I was paddleboarding. Never done a SUP before. And my friend went paddleboarding with my friend Will, and he had his Garmin and he had a SUP feature, which he recently discovered. And so both of us being ex-rowers, we did a 40-minute piece on paddleboards. And slowly my confidence got better. And I was just like, he was like, bend your knees, stop being so tense. And so suddenly I was back in the rowing boat. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm working on my catch. And I was like, oh, this is just like a rowing boat, but you're facing forwards. So then I started working on my catch. And then my speed just went, whoom, I started getting awake. And then, the competitive nature came back in me. And all of a sudden we were racing on SUPs in Waratah Bay with linen shirts on.
I find SUPs really boring unless you come up with a game. There's some sort of competitive race to it. Like you line them up and see if you can run across each of them or something, or like I'll race you to that rock.
Oh no, but it was like a silent race. We weren't like saying we were racing, but like he was like
just slowly.
I sucked so bad at
the watts.
Yeah, I sucked at the start. Like he was mountains ahead of me, and then all of a sudden I figured out the catch and figured out it was just like a rowing boat, and then we were neck and neck, and it was brilliant.
I don't have I'm obsessed with good reading at the moment before bed. But Abs, you're going to help me with my obsession. Talk to me about the Winter Olympics. Like, what is that?
Yeah, the Superior Olympics.
Whoa,
The better of the
you can't
two.
say that in Australian. Hey, yeah. Now, I really want to get into it. It's starting soon. This is going to be my obsession. What do I need to know? Who do I need to watch? And yeah, how do I get around it?
Yeah, 11 days. 11 days till the start of the Winter Olympics. I cannot wait. There's a lot of sports that I'm really excited for. I think alpine skiing. I can't wait to see if Michaela Schifrin can win the slalom. She's been on an absolute tear. Lindsey Vonn to win gold in the downhill, having come back from retirement at the age of, I think she's 42, maybe 41.
Yes, I saw that girl. She's also broken her knee like 3 times.
Yeah,
I saw her.
she's insane, and she came back and is targeting this Olympics. So it's going to be really really exciting to see how she can do on the Nordic skiing side, which is one of my favorite sports. Jessie Diggins, her final Olympics, and she announced her retirement earlier this year. She's going to retire at the end of the year, and it's her final Olympics. The only American, well, she won gold in the team sprint back in 2018. But she's the most decorated US female Nordic skier of all time. And so there's a lot of eyes on her going into this Olympics, but she's also just like one of the coolest human beings on planet Earth. She races with glitter, so look for the sparkle. And on both the men's and women's sides, actually, for Nordic, there's some really exciting skiers. I think the competition is going to be really good.
So what's like the main event? What's the 100-meter sprint in the relay? What is like the main events?
Yeah, I don't know, because for me, I follow
all main events.
They're all main events. I think figure skating is probably like the number one event it's like the gymnastics of the Winter Olympics. And the US figure skating team going in is like really, really, really cool. Some just really cool characters on the team. And so they've got a bunch of different events between like the team event. There's like the ice dancing, figure skating, like individual, double, or pairs or whatever. So there's a lot of different things to watch on figure skating. There's the hockey, which is like rugby, I guess I would compare it to, or like football for the Summer Olympics, because they do like a tournament basically, and that's going to be exciting. And on the women's side, it's really like the US versus Canada, honestly. And the US has some really exciting hockey players, as does Canada. But one of my favorites is Lila Edwards, who is on the collegiate circuit in the US, and she plays for the University of Wisconsin, and is just incredible. And has been MVP of the World Championships and is still quite young. One of the top skaters to get to, like, with the PWHL, is keeping an eye on for when she graduates from college.
All right, you've overloaded me. All right. You know your shit. All right, write it down. Send me a list. Send me times.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the Winter Olympics.
Oh, really? I could not tell.
The speed skating is going to be amazing.
You were just like a Jack Russell that I let off the leash then.
You just took off. Was going to happen.
You took off like you're after a ball. All right, Abs, what are you obsessed with?
I am obsessed with the Winter Olympics. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's going to be great. The outfits are better. The sports are better. Everything's better. Yeah. You won't hear from do I have to watch cycling from like February 6th to the 26th? Because I would rather be watching all of the winter sports.
What the listeners can't see is that I'm currently sucking on sodium because I'm so dehydrated here in Down Under. And Abby actually is snowed in. There's literal snow 2 meters above her head.
I can't open the door to the patio. It would be a disaster.
It is unbelievable. It's amazing. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, back to Cadel's this weekend. It should still be really good.
Yeah.
Tune in for the last 30K.
It will be good. It will be good. I'm excited. TDU had me kind of getting back into the rhythm of road cycling, and now I'm ready for Cadel's.
You sound like you just want to watch Winter Olympics, but I love that you're faking that you want to watch cycling.
The other day I was riding Zwift and I had the Nordic skiing on one side and the speed skating on the other, and it was like the best. I was having the time of my life. So winter sports are where my heart really lies.
Couldn't tell.
Well, thanks so much for jumping back on the pod. We miss you.
Of course, everyone. Hope you're all well. I will no doubt speak to you again sometime soon.
Awesome.
This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by Will Jones at Red Bricks Media.